Hello, everybody. It's been a while. Much has happened. I won't be going into details, though. Sorry. Um, but uh, I'd like to make this video in dedication of Men's Mental Health Month, June. Um, Now, I know a lot of you are familiar with June being Pride Month. And while, yes, it is good to celebrate Pride, I think is also important to celebrate mental health and each of us our own mental health journeys. And like, I don't really fit into the Pride demographic, so I can't really speak on it. It's not my place. It would be wrong of me to speak for others when I have no experience in the field. Therefore, I will speak from a place that I can come from. Otherwise, I'd be pretentious. It'd be arrogant of me to try and speak for a demographic that I simply am not a part of. I think like my only claim that I could have to the Pride demographic, to the LGBTQ community, is the fact that I am sapiosexual. But that is so rare. It's such a rare quality and such a rare orientation that I've had many peers that I've talked to about it, and not even they knew what it was. And the people that are very prominent and very well versed in the spectrum that simply had no idea what the hell it was. So, uh, yeah, I can't really like make much of a claim like beyond that. So, other than the fact that my brain is wired in an extremely rare way, I don't really have anywhere to come from on the pride dynamic of things. So, where I will come from is a place where, like, biologically I exist in and I present myself in. And that is the fact that I'm a man and I have mental health struggles. So, here we go. I think a lot of people forget that there is like plenty of mental health issues amongst men. They see the outside, what is presented, like what we are told to show, what we are told to let people see. And like there's like and this goes for women as well, there are just certain things that you are told you are and are not allowed to let other people see. And it is so incredibly rare that those walls are torn down and opened up, and that you get to see what's inside. You know, uh, it's a right shame. Honestly, it's a bloody right shame because a lot of what really makes people interesting and amazing and wondrous and beautiful is tucked away inside. It's those vulnerable parts of them, the parts that are like nestled deep in the core of our very beings, that we hold so tightly in our hearts that we don't let other people see. And there, many people have to go like their entire lives keeping that part of themselves, the most wondrous part of themselves, tucked away deep, locked inside their hearts, not able to see the sun. There no Not even a slight glimmer of the light of day peeking in, because that's just how they're conditioned. And it's there's nothing else to say other than it's a real pity. And like that's a result of environment, circumstance, and conditioning. And I really try not to overuse too many words, but I will probably be returning to that one word multiple times. Conditioning. Because as a man, uh, I can really speak from experience that, like, we are taught that we are conditioned to keep our emotions away from the public view, to keep them tight, holed up, and locked away, and for not to let people see those vulnerable parts of us, because at the end of the day, we are human, just the same as anyone else, just the same as women. We are human. We have vulnerabilities. We have flaws. But so many of those are tucked away and covered up, and kept in this nice, safe little box where we feel they won't be hurt or they won't be attacked. And because of that, they don't get dealt with. Now, my father did something great for me. He raised me with the ideals of grown men cry is not only like like it's not only good to cry, it's not only healthy to cry, but it is mature to cry. It's just a matter of finding the right time and place. And that time and place is among loved ones, when you're on your lonesome, among friends and family and confidants, people you trust. And if you need to be alone, you should absolutely cry. It is incredibly healthy because crying is natural. You are letting emotions out and you're not keeping them inside and bottled up. Because when you bottle your emotions, when you shove them deep down into the hole that is your heart, then they fester like a wound, diseased. And those negative emotions, they, like any infected wound, they slowly corrupt the rest of the area around it, make it hard to express positive emotions as well, and make it difficult to really be able to express who you truly are. Because when you bottle up those negative emotions and they fester and they become all twisted and ugly, one day they'll reach a boiling point. You won't be able to contain them anymore. Too much has been swept under the rug, and now you can't hide the fact that there's a big bulge in the rug. Yeah, and you can no longer hide what's been swept under it anymore, and it explodes. Everything comes out all at once, like that. It just becomes that minute of one too many points of stress. That one little incident is the final fuse that causes the whole bomb to explode and go off. And all it takes is a single spark to light that fuse. And we just, as a man, we're as men like as a man, like, we're taught to keep it tucked away and hidden. But what we are not taught is how to let it out in an emotionally healthy way. Oftentimes we have to seek outside sources and have to go through really rough experiences and have to learn the hard way of what it means to release those emotions in a positive, gratifying, cathartic manner that allows us to heal from them. And something my dad taught me is feel, deal, and heal. You have to feel your feelings, really feel them, sit with them, let them permeate you, and let them really settle. And then you can deal with them, really sort them through, think about them logically after you've felt them. You've had your time for emotion, and now is the time for logical thought to really sort through them and categorize them, figure out how to really manage them and handle them. That's dealing. And then finally, once you've dealt with your emotions, you can heal from them. And you have to do it in that order. If you like, you can't just skip from feeling to healing. No, you gotta sort through them. You gotta deal with them. You can't you can't just skip feeling and go to dealing and then healing. No, that's not how it works. So many people get stuck on the feeling part. They feel those emotions and then they shove them down deep in the abyss where nobody can see them. But they're still there. They haven't got anywhere. They're still doing their own thing. And the longer you leave them alone and the longer you don't deal with them, the worse they get. It's like, you turn on the water to boil, like you're making spaghetti or whatever. Um, and that water is boiling. And if you step away from it for too long, that water will boil over the pot and your house will catch on fire or whatever. Or, yeah. Point is, if you leave them alone for too long, you gotta really feel them. You gotta address them. You gotta acknowledge the fact that, yes, I am feeling these emotions. This is what I am feeling. It is not wrong of me to feel the way I do, because this is simply what I am experiencing right now. And then once you have felt them, then, okay, what emotions did I feel? What caused them? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I reacting or acting this way? Because there is a big difference between reaction and action. One is like reaction is like in response to something. Something else caused it. Is an outside source versus action, which is proactive. It is come from individual like choice. It is conscious. It is like you are actively choosing to do this thing. So reaction and action, two very different things. And I see a lot of victim blaming happen because of like someone reacts the wrong way because of the external stimuli. They just cannot take it anymore. So they react in a way that like they just can't handle. And then they get blamed for their reaction. They get kicked down, and they're like justified. Like they're then like a response to that reaction of like being like, see, this is how this person really is. You look at this person. Yeah, they suck. They're then blamed for that. And this can be seen in women most often, but men are not immune to it. A man can react in the wrong way, and there are many factors that go into this. Part of it is the fact that like their reaction was filled with so much emotion that they simply couldn't control it, or that they failed to control it. And like it really gets muddy. Where like the line between the two is so incredibly blurry that it's damn near impossible to discern. And it really is a matter of like how emotionally distressed the individual was at the time. And you can't really blame someone too much for their reaction because it's a product of their environment and how like their how stressed out they were. And like of course there are certain reactions that are just objectively wrong, objectively bad. Like, you get like you break up with someone and your response to it is to go key their car. That is an objectively wrong reaction. That is a bad reaction. That is a reaction there that like you are choosing to do something that you know is wrong, that you know is negative because of what happened. And it is disproportionate. So I think that ultimately the line between um, where a reaction is perfectly natural and wrong is the proportion of it. It is disproportionate to key your ex's car simply because they broke up with you, but it is perfectly proportionate to punch after being punched. If someone hits you, you are in your full right to hit back. Equal rights, equal fights, people. All right? If you did not start the fight, then, like, how you react to getting hit, like, ultimately, it's up to, like, that is your reaction. Now, a lot of like I've known many people, I've been in many people's shoes. I have known people who have like after getting hit, they will immediately like square up and become much more vicious than the person who hit them. And they will take it to an extreme. Um, They'll get to a point where this person is like clearly going through a lot. Um, and part of that is, you know, it can get to a point where it's disproportionate. It can start out proportionate, but then it can go to an extreme. And really, that's a matter of self discipline and emotional control. And, men are taught that, like, we need to be disciplined, that we need to have emotional control. But how we're taught that doesn't instill it in us. It gives us sort of the outline without the substance inside of the lesson. And for that, like it's a matter of teaching, of how we're taught. Like really the matter of how we're taught is like the methods are not always really getting the point across. We lose the point in trying to instill the purpose without the substance behind it. And like stoicism is great. A lot of people, like I've met many other men that like mimic the ideals of stoicism, but they miss the point. So they will appear stoic, but they aren't stoics. They are mimicking what it looks like to be a stoic, but like they ultimately like don't have that level of real genuine discipline that it takes to be a stoic, which is extremely difficult. It is really truly difficult to be a real true stoic because of how much self-control and self-consciousness that it requires. Because you have to be extremely self-aware to be able to have that level of discipline. And self-awareness is fucking torture. I'm sorry, it is just like you are your own worst critic. And when you are aware of your all of your faults and your flaws, all the things that eat away at you that like you can change and you can't change, it's it keeps you up at night. Straight up. It's like trying to get good sleep while being self-aware is nightmarish to a literal and figurative degree. So like true Stoics are really, really hard to come by because of how much it takes to be a true Stoic. And therefore, most men that you meet are not true Stoics. They are simply imitating what it looks like to be a Stoic because that's how they were taught. They were taught how to appear, not how to be. And that's a matter of conditioning. You can't fully blame them for it, but at the same time, like, it's a matter of self-awareness. It is a matter of self-awareness, the ability to recognize in the self. And I have met so many people that lack the capacity of self-awareness. They can look into the mirror and see someone totally different and yet still assume it's themselves because they cannot recognize this is me that I'm seeing. I am seeing like this person, all of these faults and flaws, all of these failings, yet all these abilities, all these capabilities, this skill, this like all of the pros and the cons. Because self-awareness is not about being down on yourself. It's not about just recognizing the flaws, but also um, the good qualities, the qualities that make us great. Someone who is truly self-aware recognizes just as much their failings as they do their winnings. You know, all of their bad qualities and good qualities in equal measure. So someone who is self-aware is like is able to embody humility. And that's a common misconception about humility is that it's about being like, oh no, no, sorry, you're better than me. You're just so much better than me. So please do your thing. That's not humility. Humility is recognizing when you are capable of something and when you are not capable of something. It is knowing your limitations. This sits well inside of my limitations, therefore, I can do it. I can act on it. This is within my capabilities. Therefore, I am justified in acting capable because I am. And a lot of people, without knowing, without seeing like the actual capabilities be displayed, will mistake that for arrogance when it isn't. It says versus like when someone is actually arrogant is when they're like they are assuming that something beyond their limitations is within their limitations, that it is within their capability of doing without actually being able to do it. And therefore, like someone who is truly confident is also truly humble. Someone who is falsely confident is also arrogant. So it is false confidence that is the root of arrogance that comes from a lack of self-awareness. But meanwhile, true confidence comes from true humility, being truly humble, truly knowing your limitations and being truly self-aware. These are very difficult things to achieve. And I have the utmost respect for those that are able to reach these states, to be truly confident, to be truly humble, to be truly self-aware, because it takes so much pain and effort and diligence to reach those points, to be able to appear that way. And, you know, to be called arrogant when you're not can really sting someone who has real confidence. But at the same time, they can easily dismiss it. It's a fine line to balance. And therefore, you know, men are just as human. You know, you cannot kick someone down for not truly being a man when their behavior is a product of their environment. If someone learned, if someone has had a rough childhood and their way of defending themselves was like huddling up into a ball and just taking all the punches that are thrown at them, you can't blame them for that. That's how they learn to survive, how to get by, because in their mind, the punches will stop when the person throwing them realizes that it's not worth it anymore. When they've gotten their satisfaction and they're done. That's how people who like how men who are meek think that it's like better to take the punches and get it done and over with, let the other person get their satisfaction, so then they'll go off and be bored with them. And like they won't even bother a second time. But they do. They do bother a second time. They do come back when their emotions are running red hot. And that's the fundamental flaw in it, in not being able to stand up for yourself, quote unquote, being a man. But like, you can't, is that lack of self awareness. Meek men do not see themselves as meek. They don't see themselves as even being weak. They lack that self awareness. And it is so difficult. It takes so much to cultivate that self awareness. You have to experience a lot. Like, it's not even clear. Like, for me, someone who has experienced it, it is very difficult to outline exactly what you have to go through. Simply because everyone's experiences are different. We all have different reactions to different stimuli, and that's the beauty of being human. We're all wired differently. No one is truly the same. Sure, we can fall into the same archetypes. We can fall into the same like categories, but ultimately, even though we may have the same qualities, I can meet someone that I uh that is like so incredibly similar to me. They agree with me on like damn near everything. They see the world in a very similar fashion that I do, but yet they could react totally differently to the same stimuli as me. And even if they react to the same stimuli as me, they could still disagree with me. There is no two people that are exactly alike, not even twins. And theoretically, twins would have the same mental wiring. No, even a twin experiences something different from their twin. They're like, even when together we are separate, and even when separate we are together. We are all humans. And I would like to correct a previous statement of from a previous video. Part of being human is part of like, we have all the same biology. But that's not quite the same thing. Uh, our anatomy and physiology is different, and like that is part of biology. So even though the difference between men and women, even though our biology like is different in many key ways that are like both small and large, um, ultimately our the way we are built may be different, but the way we are is human. We are at the end of the day human, all of us. One world, one world is enough for all of us, including men. So, for misandrists, you can go fuck yourselves. You are excluding yourselves from an equation that you cannot exclude yourselves from. and you're excluding others from that same equation. We are all part of the same species, of the same existence. My wording is escaping me. A lot of the words that really would help me, so this better, are currently escaping my mind right now. Probably would have been good to figure out a script, but that's not how I roll. Uh, Ultimately, trying to like uh judging others for things like ethnicity or country of origin or uh or gender is ultimately such a foolish endeavor because it is removing not only others from your equation but yourself from your own equation. You're removing yourself from your own life by excluding others from it. Because humans are social creatures. We are built to interact. We are built to support one another. We are built for togetherness. That is all of our brains. Every single human brain is wired for connection. And even though there are some exceptions to that rule, of course, those are anomalies. Those are where the psychology is fundamentally different in a way that it's not meant to be. We are meant for companionship, and this can come in many, many, many forms. And even people who are asexual and aromantic, these are very, like, even as terms, I am not familiar with all the different forms of delineations of gender identity and orientation and presentation. But I am still aware of the at least the general terms to an extent. So even though the nuances escape me, is simply because I am not a part of these demographics. I have made the effort to understand them, and even though I have, certain things escape me simply because I am not experiencing them. So, I am sapiosexual. Many of the people who watch this will not ever know what it's like to be sapiosexual simply because that is not how your brains are wired. That is how my brain is wired. And, it is difficult in its own ways. It is also great in its own ways. There's always going to be the pros and cons of it. I also have derealization, which is mainly suffered by teenagers and young adults, and is a result of experiencing a great deal of trauma that causes a fundamental disconnect between your brain and reality. And it is a response to trauma. So, so like derealization is a result of having gone through intense mental health struggles, and it has to be acknowledged. Because if not acknowledged, it cannot be dealt with. If not felt, it cannot be dealt with. If it cannot be dealt with, it cannot be healed from. Because derealization is one of those few mental conditions that can be healed from. But just because it can be healed from doesn't mean it's easy. It is incredibly difficult. I've struggled for many, many years to heal from it, to deal with it, to feel like it to such an extent that I can understand it. To be able to even understand it is difficult because of how surreal it is to go through and really have. I've talked to my father about it, and my mother, and my grandparents, and my peers, and even others that have it. And they is still, even then, they don't understand it like I do. Because I'm the one who is going through it. I'm the one that has it. I'm the one that has to experience it because it is a trauma response. And even among those others that have it, they do, like, my form of experiencing it can be different from theirs because how it manifests can manifest differently because of different fundamental traumas, the different fundamental causes. And PTSD is, like, very real. It's very difficult to handle and deal with. And healing from your traumas is very difficult. And when I hear trauma talked about, when I hear it discussed, well, it is often discussed like as a blanket term of just like this is trauma that everybody goes through, or women trauma within women, how the traumas that women experience. So I can see in the same breath someone speaking of it as something that everybody can go through, everybody can end up experiencing, and it can be a struggle for everybody. And then in that same breath, in that same sentence, immediately go into like okay, so here's the things that women specifically go through, and men just kind of get ignored in the equation. And it feels it feels exclusive, like unintentionally excluding, because I intuitively know that it is unintended, and that is not coming from a place of malice or hurt for men. And yet, just like representation, you know, within the mental health space, men are simply underrepresented. Women get a lot more attention and press for their mental health struggles than men do. This is not a simple opinion. This is a fact based on um, actual studies that have been done. This is not just from what I have seen, but from studies and like from what has been observed on a large scale level. So therefore, I cannot help but speak of it. I have derealization. I am sapiosexual. I am unique in my own ways. My struggles, even though many have gone through similar experiences, my struggles are my own, and how I handle them is is my own, but it is still important that even though I am experiencing my struggles in my own unique way, it is still important to ask for help. And asking for help is not a sign of weakness. Going to therapy is a form of asking for help, is going out and seeking help. And it is not a form of weakness. It is a form of maturity and intelligence. Because what you are doing in asking for help and seeking therapy is using the tools at your disposal. And like any good tool, you it is important to know just how much to rely on it. Because if you rely too much on a tool, then what are you without it? If you are use the tool to the extent that it is supposed to be used for. If you over rely on a tool like a crutch, then when it is kicked out from under you and you don't have it at your disposal, you fall apart. You can't stand on your own. You have to learn how to use the crutch for the time you need it and to use it when appropriate. For example, if I was to say break my leg tomorrow, I would have to get a crutch. I would have to lean on it, and for several months I would have to make use of it until such time that my leg is healed. Now I can keep that crutch, or I could donate it to someone else who needs it. And the thing is that what if my leg gets broken again? Well, for the time that my leg is healed, I don't need to lean on that crutch. So I won't. There's no point in it. There's no point in playing hurt when I'm not hurt. There's no point in being the walking wounded. It's unnecessary and it just causes more friction between you and others. Therefore, when I don't need the crutch, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to lean on it. It is a tool that I simply do not need. But if my leg was to be broken again, I can still have that tool in my closet, that crutch in my closet, and I can pull it out and make use of it once again. Because like any good tool, there are times when it can be applied and times when it cannot be. And for a broken leg, that's what a crutch is made for. That is the tool that it is built for, as its purpose. So therefore, as a tool, I will use it when appropriate. And for many of us men, we don't know how to use the tools of emotional resolution in the way that we need it because we are not taught these tools. We are not intimate with them or their uses. And therefore, many of us don't know how to make use of them when we really need them. We often need outside help from either those who have fought through fire and have made it out the other side and have learned to use them the hard way, or women. Women have simply know how to handle their emotions better, more because their conditioning is different. These tools are more they are more intimate with them because they know how to use them because they are taught how to use them. They have that conditioning in their corner. And conditioning is not necessarily a bad thing. It can be bad. There is good conditioning and there is bad conditioning. And what we need is good conditioning. We need more of it. We need to weed out that bad conditioning, that toxic conditioning. Toxic masculinity is often born from conditioning, from how we are taught and the environment we are in. But at the same time, healthy masculinity is also born of conditioning, how we are taught and the environment we are in. So we, as human beings, need to help each other, need to help each other heal, help each other grow, help each other get through life as best we can, to teach each other this good conditioning and to really do what we can to weed out that bad conditioning. And it looks different for everyone. And it's my sincere hope that as not just a people, but as a species, we can work together in making our lives easier. For we are human, after all. So, for the men out there, be aware of each other's struggles. Be aware that, even though you're not going through it, there are others that are. And though you may not understand the perspective, at least do what you can to try and see it. To try and at least notice it and help direct it towards someone who does understand it, towards those that can teach the tools. And for the women out there, be aware, us men are just as human as you are. We have the same emotions, we have the same psychology for the most part, even though the hormones may be different, the way we react to certain things may be different, and some of our actions and the logic behind them may be different. At the end of the day, our brains are wired the same. We are wired to be human. Our biology may be different in many key ways, but we are all part of the same species. So those differences, when push comes to shove, mean jack shit. Because we are all human, and as human beings, we should seek to understand one another. Happy Men's Mental Health Month. I hope all of you are taking care of yourselves and doing well. And from the bottom of my heart, I sincerely hope that if you need therapy, if you need help, seek it out. Do what you can to be your best self, to be to make sure that the you tomorrow is better than the you today in the ways that matter. That you can cultivate a good sense of self-confidence, self-esteem, good sense of humility, and self-awareness. I thank you for watching this video, for being with me here today, and for listening. And if anybody gains any solace out of just watching a 20-year-old talk in his bedroom about stuff, then I am incredibly grateful. And that gratefulness cannot be understated. So thank you for being with me here today. And I hope that you can join me again and be there for one another. Arrivederci, and I'll see you next time.